Here's why I believe arm wrestling is a martial art, or at least a combat sport, not a strength sport, which is what many casual viewers see it as. Now, not in the traditional sense, if we go by the textbook standards, which is a form of self-defense which originated from China or Korea or Japan. Arm wrestling, it's not designed for self-defense. We aren't fighting any aggressors in a dark alley, but it is still a fight, it's combat. And unlike strength sports, trying to lift some weight or trying to lift something in the shortest amount of time, in arm wrestling you are still fighting a person. Not with your whole body, but mostly with your arm and your hand. I'd split arm wrestling into two core zones of battle. There is the battle of the hand, and then there is the battle of the arm. Now the first fight happens in the hand. We're talking about our cupping, finger flexion, rising, pronation. Whoever wins this battle usually gets to control the entire match. They can dictate the direction and the pressure of the match more freely than their opponent. But then you realize that the hand isn't anything. There's also the battle of the arm. Because even if you lose your hand, you can still win the battle with your arm. I see the battle of the hands in two primary movements. There is the cup and there is the pronator. And these two are opposite to each other. You gaining your cup often means your opponent has lost the pronator, and you gaining your pronator means that your opponent lost the cup. And let's say there is a scenario where you lose your pronator. Now you are on your bicep. But when you are on your bicep, you have the opportunity to force your opponent into a hook. If you still have your cup maintained and you can supinate well, then you can force your opponent into a bicep, and then it becomes an arm-on-arm battle. Or let's say there is the other scenario where you lose your cup, but you still keep your pronator. In this scenario, if you have good enough shoulder control and shoulder engagement with your arm, you can still win the battle by using a flop press. You're forced to use more of your structure against your opponent's musculature. And there are athletes who have showcased that with enough conditioning, their press can be absolutely deadly even without their cup. Let's just look at Kamil Jablonski versus Devon Larratt. In this match, Kamil already knew that there was no chance he could keep his cup against Devon, because currently no one on the planet can keep their cup against Devon Larratt, maybe except for Levan. Kamil knew that, but Kamil also knew that he's one of the best flop pressers in the world, which means that he doesn't need his cup for his style. He can force the battle to go structure versus back pressure, musculature, and he knows that he can win this battle, because Devon's back pressure isn't one of his strong points. Now in later rounds we can see that Devon tried to adjust, he tried to go on arm as well, but he immediately knew that there was no chance he could win against Kamil. In this way, Kamil can basically remove the hand aspect of the sport and not care about it as much. He can force it to go on structure and musculature and arm, not a lot about the hand. Then we can take someone like Todd Hutchings. Todd is someone who has again developed very good connection between his wrist and his shoulder, and even when his wrist cracks, he can still keep his pronator and have enough stability to still go sideways. And again, usually top rowers cannot deal with that, because their whole technique is about taking their opponent's hand, and once they take their opponent's hand, normally their opponent loses a lot of the force they can apply. But with Todd Hutchings, again, since he's so used to simply pushing sideways, even if his wrist is gone, but still keeping the pronator, then he can still win battles. There are many more of these examples I could talk about, but I could speak about it for hours. And it's all these examples, these interesting ways in which we fight, and there are all these micro adjustments that a casual viewer never notices, which certainly make it into a martial art. It's not about brute force, pure strength. Of course that's a hugely important aspect of it, but there is also the technique aspect, there is control, attacking, defending. It's about combat. That's everything I've got for today. Thanks a lot for watching.